The question you got to ask yourself is, how far do you want to go?
The Lord is looking down and he's saying, come further, come deeper.
But the problem is, most people hesitate from going from surface to deep.
Here on this podcast, we invite you to go from the surface of topics to deeper levels. So
let's go deep together.
Hey y'all, it's C Joy
and Char J.
And we're back.
Yes, we're back for the second part with none other than the fabulous Sabrina J. Robertson.
So, without further ado, let's continue.
So can I ask a love question?
Absolutely.
Go right ahead.
You ladies, as experts in the room, why is it that we, and I can only speak for women, because I'm a woman, I've never been a guy, I pee sitting down. Why is it that we as women have difficulty asking to see receipts of work? We'll ask about how much money you make. We'll ask what your credit score is. But when it comes down to, sir, how did you heal? We don't ask to see no work. We don't ask, did you go to counseling? How many weeks did you go? What was your diagnosis? Right. We don't ask what you do for maintenance. We don't ask. Why is that?
I would say part of that is for fear of rejection, fear of being alone again, if you're wanting to date, if you're ready, if you feel like you're ready. So at the end of the day, the root of it is fear. That's why you don't ask.
And then I think I have another answer. She said fear, but I think sometimes we don't expect anything better than that. So it's like, yeah, I did my work, but I don't expect other people, I don't expect him to, I'm not requiring it. I'm just like, okay, I know I did my work and I'm here to prove it, but it's okay. And sometimes I think also as women, we try to fix, in a sense. I think men try to fix things, like they'll try and fix a thing. We try and fix people. I think it's that nurturing nature in us, because we're meant to become mothers. And so we were meant to nurture. So it's like, we look for, what can I help? How can I grow you? Like, how can I help you grow? So I want to love you into this place. So I'm not going to require you to be 100% whole, because the requirement isn't needed. I feel like I need to nurture you into it. So it's okay if you're not, it's okay if you're not there yet, because my nature is to nurture you in the process. So let me nurture you through this. Let me love you through this, even though that's not for us to do.
Nope.
That's real good. That's real good.
That's good.
That's real good. That's good. That's how we pick up projects.
Yeah, that's how we pick up projects.
Projects based on potential.
Instead of seeing what they are now.
Yeah. Oh, I see you as, you can do this in a few years.
Or I can handle it.
Yeah.
Yep. That's that cycle.
Right? And going back to the original question, love never fails. What happens? How do you address that? Well, we become the conduit. And so remember, I talked about taking responsibility for the role we played,
right,
in the failing conduit. For us to walk openly into a dynamic where we know someone is not healed. Hurting people hurt other people. Wounded people wound other people, not because they want to. That's the level of capacity that they're existing at. For us to walk into that willfully, voluntarily, there's no guns in our back. And for us to expect not to have an impact is unwise and foolish. So, did they do it to us, or did we do it to us?
Yeah, we did. And we need to take accountability for that.
And the moment we do that, the next time we see a situation, we'll be more careful about walking into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I did this the last time.
Yes. Yes. That part. That part. Yeah. And you just have to get to this point where you trust God will work it out for your good, even the waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even the waiting. Yeah. That's it. Whew.
Y'all so
We even-
silent.
Because you don't understand.
I'm waiting on Shara J to crack a joke or something.
I can't today. It's just not. Because it's just the things is just like, who child? Like, it makes you think. It changes the way you think. Like, society in some people may know, some people may not know, I'm in my master's program. And one of the things we were studying on the change of society, I'm going to get my master's in pastoral clinical counseling. That's what I'm going to get my master's in. And so we talk about the difference between Christian counseling and those thoughts, and then the world's how they view counseling. And it's very much so society has taken the responsibility off of the person. It's always what did they do? You act like this because this happened, or you act like this because that happened. And this is conversation is making it clear that that needs to change, because as long as we're pointing our fingers at everybody else, we're not taking responsibility for what we are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And what we need to change, because we're not perfect. No one is perfect. If you're perfect, you're not living. Deion says once you get to sainthood, you can't even hear, you got to go.
Right.
So as long as you're still here, you're still working, you're still growing, you're still changing things, but you can't change, because Sabrina says this to me all the time. You can't change other people. You can't control other people. You only can change and control yourself. But if I'm spending all my time blaming everybody else for what is going on, I'm not working on the thing that I can't control. So I'm going to stay in this place of everything is wrong, my life is horrible, blah, blah, because I'm steady trying to change what I think the problem is, which is everybody else, instead of what's changing what the real problem is, which is myself.
Right.
Absolutely.
And for me, when that clicked, because like I've already talked about my mother issues somewhat on this podcast, so I'm not even caring about, it's already out there. When I changed the way I thought about my mother, it made it easier to start healing myself from what she did.
Sure.
It made it where it was like, okay, I could see, like, I know, like in the beginning years, I didn't play a part. I was a kid. But once I got to a certain age of responsibility, I know that there were certain ways I provoked the situation. There were certain things that I could have said or not said. I know that there were certain things that I thought, and because of what I thought and what I wanted and my expectations, I didn't think about the capacity she had to love me like the way I thought I needed to. So I kept expecting something of her that she had no way of giving me, and thinking it's your fault that you did this. No, Nashara, you have to, once I realized that her capacity was here, stop thinking she's gonna go above that. She's gonna stay there.
That's right. That's right.
So it was in a sense I had to realize I was continuing to hurt myself by expecting more of her.
More than she had the ability to give you.
That's good. That's good.
That's when I was able to start actually be like, okay, I can actually heal. I can be in your presence. I can actually heal from this, because I no longer expect you to do more than you can do. I can't require, I used to teach, and I couldn't require a kid who was on a first grade reading level to read a 5th grade book and then get upset when they can't do it.
That's right. That's good. I don't know where you got that from, but that's good.
That's good.
That's good. I wanted to just back us up just a space for our listeners, right? Because you guys have the book. You've looked at it, right? Empathy plays a huge role in how we do life with each other. A lot of times we misuse empathy from a good place. Empathy is literally the ability to put yourself in the other person's shoes and experience life, experience the situation from their perspective, Having empathy helps us understand how a person arrived at the state that they're at, right? That's the part we need.
Right.
Hear me though, when I
Mhm.
say empathy, the exercising of empathy does not dismiss or excuse bad behavior. There
Mm.
is a difference between understanding its origin and its root from dismissing it or making allowances for it. We do not do that. And I say that I wanted to stop us because a lot of times we'll think we're practicing empathy.
Hmm.
And what we're doing is practicing self-harm.
Mm.
Oh, you know, he was a motherless child, so he don't mean to cuss me out. Listen, understand he was a motherless child. Where's that boundary though? Because to exist in any other space is the practicing of self-harm.
Mm.
I think it was T.D. Jakes that said one of the most damaging things that we can do while we're going through our own healing process and recovery process is to expect people who are not well to live and to function as if they are.
And then let's talk about boundaries. Let's talk about boundaries for a moment.
It's not a curse word, people. It's not.
Boundaries, the other B word.
I know it'd be like,
Because when you think about struggling with boundaries, a lot of times comes with people pleasing. And people pleasing is a form of control. It's a form of control. You want to manipulate the outcome by doing what you think they want you to do. So you overextend yourself to a degree where now you don't have anything left. You don't have anything left. But if you start setting up boundaries, a healthy boundary like saying, no, I can't do that. A healthy boundary like choosing to not put yourself in certain situations again, where you know the outcome based on their capacity is going to be one that causes you to feel hurt, causes you to feel pain. Why do we at times, especially when we're doing the work, struggle with placing boundaries around ourselves while we're healing?
So a boundary definition, here we go. A line that marks the limits of an area.
Mm.
Boundary is simply you drawing a line in the sand to say, this is my space, right? What would you all say if I told you that people pleasing is a trauma response?
oh, totally agree. As a people pleaser in healing process, totally agree.
If I could throw a shoe, I would. It is a trauma.
It is a trauma response. It's a trauma response.
Yep. So there are 4 childhood trauma responses, four primary. For all of you out there, armchair therapists that will go and find 25 more. There are 4 primary. 3 we hear all the time: fight, flight, freeze. Those are the 3 that we hear all the time. Fight or flight, freeze. We just freeze up. We can't do nothing. Can I introduce you all to the 4th?
Please.
Childhood trauma responses. Fawn, F-A-W-N, like you fawn over somebody. Childhood trauma response. People with this trauma response will often display these behaviors. At the top of the list, people pleasing. Living in a state of being overwhelmed. Why? Because you're always trying to please other people. You here, there, you everywhere. The absence of boundaries. Can't have boundaries when you're people pleasing because they get to call the shots. And if you pleasing more than one person, you're overwhelmed. Lack of identity because you're dependent on other people to tell you who you are. Codependency. You need these people to define who you are. Appeasing, you're willing to sacrifice your own dreams, aspirations, even your own joy, just to have them in your life. You're willing to do anything to appease them. Lastly, self-critical, because when they're not happy, instead of recognizing that the deficit is in them, you turn to yourself, what could I do better? Well, if I hadn't said this, if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't shown up that way, if I hadn't tried to implement a boundary. It's a childhood trauma response. And what does it mean? When I say childhood trauma response, it's a trauma response that formulated in your childhood because of trauma. Okay, I'm done.
If you wanted to read my whole life story, then you could have just said that. I didn't, you could have just told me from jump. Because it's crazy that you said that, because I never saw myself as I fight, but that's not my first response. I don't really run away from stuff, and I don't really freeze. I'm always going. So to hear that one was like, where has that been all my life? That explains everything. And when I say usually it's like, okay, that's 3 out of 4. No, all of them. Every single one.
I'm just going to say I learned something new today. I learned. Fawn.
So I would Fawn, F-A-W-N. I would venture to say that we are not the only ones that can resonate with some or all of those characteristics, right? And so we never want to leave people without a solution. What do I do if I find myself getting ready to respond in a way that is a people-pleasing way, or that is a codependent way? There's something so powerful about pausing. Stop. Right? Before you make a decision, before you answer a request, before you volunteer, when you're really being voluntold, like whatever it is, stop, pause. Now, what you do with the pause is going to make or break this situation. Ask yourself one question. Is this something I really want to do? Or is this my trauma speaking? Do I have the capacity to take on this? Or is the yes that's on the tip of my tongue a function of my trauma?
Wow. For those listening, the question was, is this something I really want to do? Or is this my trauma speaking? Do I have the capacity to take this on?
And so, I'm sorry, last part. If you can't say yes, this is something I really want to do, I have the capacity, it's going to make my life better, it's going to be a reciprocity, they going to grow, I'm going to grow, just in case you can't figure it out. If you can't say that, then you say no. And that's how you combat the childhood trauma. Remember, a few steps back, we said anything can be present: anxiety, depression, all of these things, codependency, all of these things, right? The question we sit with is it managing me, or am I managing it? So if I can ask myself the question, and then I can say no to a request, because I know it's a function of my childhood trauma, I have just taken control over the childhood trauma. It is no longer in charge of me. I am in charge of it.
So would you say that adults who function from a place of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn are operating in arrested development emotionally?
Or wounding? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I like that instruction. Pause before you give a response.
Stop. This is so powerful, even for those of us who have a tendency to speak too fast.
Right.
Pausing for a minute may feel like an eternity,
Mm-hmm.
but I guarantee you, if you stop talking for just a few seconds and think about what you're thinking about, not even thinking about what you're about to say, think about what you're thinking about. That will probably cause a lot of us not to talk, right? Why is that important? Because thoughts, feelings, behavior, how I think influence how I feel. How I feel contributes to how I behave.
Mhm.
Stop and think about what you're thinking about.
Mm-mm-mm. That's it. Just pause. That's it.
Pause. Before you discipline your children, stop and think about what you're thinking about.
Right.
Because most of the time, it's not the fact that they didn't wash the dishes again. Most of the time, it's about us feeling overwhelmed. I don't have no help. I feel like nobody is valuing me.
Right.
You're taking me for granted. Nobody appreciates me. Thoughts, feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Now I feel resentful.
Mm-hmm.
Now I feel like you're disrespecting me.
Mm-hmm.
Behavior. I'm about to come in hot over 2 spoons in a sink.
Right.
And it really ain't about the spoons in the sink.
At all.
It's about you feeling undervalued,
Right.
overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed.
And now that baby is just,
Right. Mm. Before you say yes to a relationship that's not going to serve you well,
You know, I wouldn't have
pause.
been in my last relationship if I took a pause.
Pause.
it's the
Just take a
truth.
pause.
It's the truth.
You didn't
My
have to.
last marriage would not, my marriage, my 6-month fiasco would not have happened had I paused.
Mm-hmm. It's the truth. It is the truth. We have
man.
one more.
We got one more still? Wait, what? I thought we were done.
No.
Oh,
We have
God.
one more benefit
God.
to discuss of doing the work.
I know we said deep, but Jesus. I'm
Yeah, we
sorry.
deep. We
Go
ocean. We
ahead.
ocean deep
Like
today.
we in the middle of the nowhere in the Atlantic Pacific, not even at the beach. You can't even see the shore.
We're
Just
not
in the
even at the
middle.
shoreline no
I
more.
don't see land for miles around. Just saying.
That's that part. That part.
We're
All
in the
right.
unexplored territory of the ocean. Go
Right.
ahead. I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
you're right. No, you're absolutely right. All right. All right. The last benefit of doing work listed, but not the least, is more peace. Completing the work produces a greater sense of self-awareness, self-acceptance, and a healthy sense of positive self-esteem. It ties to our identity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think when we get to the point where we're at the end of the journey, there's oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless things we bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Sometimes when we take the music out of the, we separate the lyrics from the music, we can literally sit with what we're singing.
Mm-hmm.
I think about that all the time. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. How much peace in your life have you forfeited? In the last 10 years, how much peace have you forfeit? You gave up.
Mm-hmm.
You walked away. It was on the table and you walked away from it. When you do the work, you stop forfeiting peace.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're making better decisions.
Mm-hmm.
You have better balance. You have increased clarity.
Mm-hmm.
You're no longer responding from your childhood trauma.
Right.
So you validate your own no. That was a good no, Sabrina. 5, girl. Validate your own yes. Sabrina, that is a legitimate yes. Go get them,
Yes.
Tiger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, increased peace because we're no longer forfeiting what was our original benefit.
Mm.
It's no longer perverted.
No longer perverted. No longer perverted. You should feel peace from
Yeah.
that place of love
Yeah.
being a safe place.
Yeah. Even
According to
when
1
things
Corinthians
don't work
13.
out,
Even when they don't
even when
work
things
out.
don't work out, there should still be a peace, right? Because once you do this journey, right, and we started talking about love,
Mhm.
I went through the journey of healing. We didn't even talk about, my story, how I got here, but I had childhood trauma, like a lot of us do. Had a significant unhealthy relationship, marriage that only lasted 6 months, became the catalyst for me to do my own healing work, which I am still on because it's a lifelong commitment to be healed and to stay healed. Once I got to a place where it was healthy and safe for me to enter dating. And I say that because we didn't even talk about the accountability that goes along with it. I submitted myself to accountability.
Okay.
I recognized that my picker was broken. I no longer trusted my picker. It was broken generationally. I inherited a broken picker. We can talk about that at another time. So when it was time for me, I felt ready to start dating. That's when I also invited my accountability partners, particularly one of my best friends, Dion, and my pastor, into my dating process. And everybody that I thought about dating, I introduced to them, and I allowed them to say yes or no.
That's good.
And because I trusted them, I made the commitment that if they said no, it was a no. And I got some no's.
Wow. Wow.
And up until this very relationship, I submitted to them. What do you think? Tell me what you see. Right? Because my picker I didn't trust it. So I had to trust other people because
Right.
we live in community.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So
Yeah.
just because we do the work, we do a measure of the work, we get a measure of healing, that does not mean we just jump back out there. We need boundaries to keep us
And
safe,
sometimes the
right?
boundaries are the accountability partners.
So there's a level of vulnerability. There's a level of accountability and responsibility that we have to take on when you want to be well. Are you sure, sweetheart? Because healing is no trifling matter. It's a lot of weight when you're well. How you walk different when you're well. Because once you recover all, you be damned if you let somebody else take it.
So I want to go back to something you said about a generational bad picker. So sometimes the pattern of choosing wrong is inherited.
Yep. Even when you didn't see it. You don't have to be around to witness the generational pathologies for them to affect and impact you. When I was sitting with, how did I get here? Who left the gate open? The end of my 6-month marriage, I had to sit with the reality that on my mother's side, there was not one successful marriage. There was not one as I sat in that space in 2017, there was not one marriage that was still intact. Save one, and I'm not going to call it out. But even when I sat with that one, I had to be honest with, from the outside, it looked like they was just tolerating each other. And even with that, as I sat and I went a little bit further, not to put her business in the street, but my mom was married 5 times. And to this day, she's not married. So, picking, right?
Right.
And not to put her business in the street, but my daughter, I passed this on to her. Right. And as I sat with that gave me, and the fact that my daughter had a daughter, so I have a granddaughter now, that gave me motivation. Somebody got to change something. So I took on the onus to do the work, not only for myself and my own heart, but so my granddaughter would never have to say, I got a bad picker.
For her inheritance.
For her. I'm doing it for her. Right. So for those of you that are listening, whether the healing needs to take place in regards to childhood trauma, relationship and dating drama, and all of that stuff. I want to encourage you to identify who you're working for.
Find your why.
Find your why, because sometimes our own trauma will not allow us to see ourselves as worthy. It's as good as it gets. I'm cool with it. It's status quo. Would you want your daughter or your granddaughter or your great-great-granddaughter, who you may never meet, to live the same existence? Do it for her. Do it for the baby that will carry your name that you will never hold. Do it for her.
Do the work for your future generations.
Do the work so your children won't have to.
So your children won't have to.
Okay. So that's the crux of it. I don't know. Y'all got anything else or?
Wow.
I just got my notes that I've been taking.
I sure appreciate you all
Yes.
having me. Yeah, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for what you're doing, for using your platform, for being willing to tell your story, right? We overcome by the blood of the Lamb. That's that grace and mercy.
Right.
The words of our testimony. I'll say, man, I'm done. If y'all done, I'm done if y'all done, right? There was so much shame and embarrassment wrapped up in acknowledging that I had a 6-month marriage. So much shame. Like I was this public persona. I was in radio. I was a therapist. I was in all of these places. And so the marriage wasn't a secret. The engagement wasn't a secret. It wasn't private. It wasn't personal. It wasn't private because I lived my life on a social platform. So when this happened, there was no way for me to live it in private because of the way I had lived my life, right? And so in addition to recovering from what happened, I had to try to figure out how I was going to face the world again. Professionally, how do you face the world again? Right? How do I tell people I was married for 6 months? Because I know if I met somebody, I'll be trying to figure out what's wrong with them. Right? I was trying to prepare myself for that judgment, for all of those things. And it wasn't until I got brave enough, because people were talking about it, whether I talked about it or not. So I might as well tell it, because once I tell it, what you gonna do? At least if I tell it, the truth is out there, the facts are out there, and nobody else can tell it better than me. Once I took that brave step, I had people reaching out to me from all over. It happened to me too. It happened to me too. I remember one lady, she said, I was married for 7 days. Right? Wow. So I just want to encourage you all. You never know who's listening and who will be encouraged by your transparency.
Thank you.
Proud of you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I have because this is my thing and I ask questions for a living. But if we're gonna wrap, I don't know if this is the end or not, but what's your love goals? Because we all should have a goal. Right? The vision, make it. What's your love goal?
I'm gonna let Char J go first on this one.
No.
What are your
baby?
love
I don't.
goals? I'll go. Okay. What are my love goals? I said a few months ago that I wanted to love myself through the lens of grace. I said that. And what that means in layman's terms is I want to love myself that is a reflection of the Father's love according to 1 Corinthians 13.
For sure. I like it.
That's my goal for me loving me that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I know once that is what I'm doing, that's what I will always attract from everyone. It's that same level of love.
Okay. I like it.
I would say that my love goal, I have multiple, but the one
Okay.
that's most important is to show first myself
Okay.
and then others that unconditional love. Um, I want people to know, because I think that's a lot of people don't realize that I think most people live a life where the love that people have for them is conditional. If you do
Yeah.
this, I'll do this. If you do this, I'll do that. Um, I don't want that, because I've lived that, and I don't want that for anyone else. And I don't want to do that to myself. That if I do these goals, then if I do this, then I'll love myself. So yeah, my goal is to first love myself and then others unconditionally.
Okay. Okay.
No, what, Christina? What?
So I have to add to my love goals now
Okay.
that you said that,
Mm,
because I have 2 daughters
Mm-hmm.
and I want them to know what that love looks like and what it feels like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
from the way that I love them too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Here's to not creating childhood trauma in our kids, because we do it.
Yeah.
We do it. So my last question would be, and if you can't answer this, I'm going to encourage you to let this be the assignment. What is your standard or rubric of measurement for the love you're waiting to receive? Right? And that's important, because if you don't have a standard or a rubric that's already identified, you will not recognize it when it comes. This may require you to set aside types. My type, if he's 6 foot, this may require you to set aside all of the things, the notions, and the fairy tale ideas. What is the value, integrity standards?
I'm going to say something about this because
Say it.
I've been so focused on finding victory in singleness that I had not thought about what is my standard or rubric of what I am willing to receive until you have posed that question.
Christina Joy, every coin has 2 sides. So you can focus on your healing, you can focus on your work, but you better flip that coin over. What's on the other side of that coin?
Mm-hmm. Me having a healthy marriage.
What does that look like?
But what does that look like?
What does that look like? So my rubric, I knew that I would know him when I could say he loved me. He loves me like Christ loved the church, right? Super standard. But how did Christ love the church? Christ loved the church so much that he gave. What did he give? His only most precious thing, right? Sacrificial love. Now, that doesn't mean I'm looking for somebody who's going to give, but it means that I'm looking for someone whose heart is about service and about love and about sacrifice. I recognize it when I see it.
Mm. It's more than just realizing a standard is a person that you are comparing them to, but having.
The Bible said God takes the foolish things and confounds the wise. So if you look at 6'3" Carmel, God will say, okay, with your vain self, take this 5'3". Blue collar worker. That'll love you to the point where you never have to wonder if they're going to be who they say they are, if they're going to do what they say they're going to do. And then it becomes your choice. Will you accept it because it's not the package you wanted? Or will you reject it? It's important for us to know what we're looking
for. The Selah.
Why are they so quiet? They're sitting here.
It's another Selah.
God. Oh, Father God. Jesus. Okay.
Shondo Rondo Condo up in here.
All up in here. Ooh, child.
My.
Mm. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't.
Shara J, you did not answer the question. Are you?
I didn't have to. You should just been there. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna fight. What my 29-year-old self is gonna say? I'm gonna learn. I don't know. And like I said, I guess I can say this, that I pull, because like I've watched generations of women in my family just have horrid relationships. Or even if they had a good relationship, it didn't last. As in, not that they broke up, but like they found it so late in life that they had less time to enjoy it. And I don't want that.
Yes.
I want to be with my husband for years and years and years. I don't want to have to wait until I'm 70 to find that person, but then I only have 5 years with them. So what I've been doing when it comes to, I guess, my rubric is finding, I don't know why, I might be complicated, but I always do the opposite. Like, I'm like, ooh, this is bad. I don't want to do that. I don't want it to look like this. Because I guess I'm trying to, what's that scripture? That all things works together for the good of
Romans
those-
8:28.
Yeah, that one right there. I'm working on my scriptures, y'all, still. At least I know them. But
That's right.
that one, even I've been, especially lately, been taking that approach to life of, even though this bad happened, I can still learn something from it. So
For
even
sure.
though all the women I've watched in my life in my family have like not so great relationships, I can take that bad or that I saw and change it. So there's certain things I'm not going to accept. I'm like, one thing I'm glad God did do, he broke down this is what my man gonna look like. I don't have that issue. It's not my issue. I'd be like, Lord, if they love me the way that I'm supposed to be loved, I'm okay with that. So I'm glad that has already happened for me, and I don't have to, because most girls my age, they're at that point where they're like, I want him 6'5", this job, and that's not my story. Like, I think in my early 20s I was like that, like college me was like that, but in the last few years that has been broken down. But I think the thing that I have to continue to break down is the way that I see myself. Because my issue is not that I want this man to look like this. My issue is, I always say I want to be loved, but again, if you don't know what it looks like, you can't get it. And so for me, I have to continue to work on what love is and what it looks like.
Because you know what it don't look like, and
I know what
you
it don't look
want.
like. I know what I don't want, but what do I want? Because I've been missing that of like, I know what I don't want. Like I always say this, people be like, well, they're like, what do you like to eat? And I'm like, I can tell you what I don't like to eat. And it's like, but you're still not telling me, what do you like to eat? And so, I need to explore the other side of it.
For sure. And I would say, until we can do that, have these conversations, answer those questions without pause, without reservation, really ready? Are we really ready? Right? Because some of the things that we'll do, and if you don't have some good big brothers in your life, that you can call and say, okay, if this happens, what does that mean? If he say this, what does that mean? Right? I'm spent a lot of time in my healing and recovery with David Burrs, which was amazing. One of the things he'll say is, when you figure out what you want, be silent about it. Because if you come and the guy asks you, what are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for somebody that's going to give. I'm looking for somebody else. He will become those things for the moment. So some things you share, but some things you hold back, so you'll know that it's authentic. Because nobody can be who they're not consistently for a long period of time.
Right. That's how you weed out the counterfeits.
I used to say, I want somebody that's kind, somebody who's nice, who treats me well. And that's what I would get. But then I look back and they treat other people like crap. Because kindness wasn't who they were, it was what they were doing.
Write that down.
Kindness
It's
was
not who
what
they
they were
were.
doing,
It
but
was
it
what they
wasn't
were
who they
doing.
were. Love is kind. They were, my goodness.
Right. And they did that based on the information I gave them. They took what I gave and gave that back to me, but it
Right.
wasn't who they were fundamentally.
Right. And kindness is a fruit of the spirit. So that's, you'll know them by their fruit. My Lord. Okay.
So much for having me.
Good. So good. Thank you.
Child, I can't. Okay.
So
I'm supposed to be comedic relief. Jesus Christ.
Listen,
Knock the wind out of me. Okay.
in the deep end, there's hardly any moments for
Of comedic relief.
comedy
I
that
see.
are-
I see. Goodness gracious.
hardly any moments. Well, I want to thank you, Sabrina, for your time. Thank you for the wisdom that you have poured out so selflessly on our podcast today. And Shara J, I'm gonna ask you, how much surface, how much
Not
deep?
you taking my line today.
I'm taking your line
Not you
today.
taking my line today. Rude. Much. Well,
We gotta ask Sabrina the question too.
I was like, so let's start with our guest. Look at you. Let's start with our guests. So at the end of every podcast, we always ask each other, how much of this do you think was surface? How much of this do you think it was deep? And like we said, the goal of the podcast is to every week get deeper into the topic. So to our lovely guest, how much of this do you think was surface and how much do you think of it was deep?
Surface 10, deep 90. Like we jumped. We left.
I think the only thing surface was the introduction.
Listen, 10%. We left.
That's the only thing that was surface was
That
the
was
introduction.
the only thing. Was the
I would say
introduction.
we did good work today.
You did good work.
It is my prayer that it felt to your listeners therapeutic, that they got some answers, or at least that we, through this conversation, sparked some questions that they will sit with.
Right. Right.
That was our assignment.
That was our assignment.
All right, see Joy, because you ain't taking my line. How much surface, how much deep? Take my assignment.
I was going to say 100% deep, but I'll say 5% surface, 95% deep today.
the beginning and the end.
The
The only
beginning and the
surface.
end was the
That was
only
it.
surface when we came up for air.
That was
That
it.
was it. That was it.
Huh.
Your turn.
All right. Oh, I agree with you actually today.
Oh, okay. We
agree
agreed today.
We agree today. 95% deep, 5% surface. Yeah. But who child? Okay.
This was good.
This was good.
This was good.
This was
And again, everyone, check out our host, our guest. Check out our guest book.
It's going to be linked in all of the places you go to listen. And it'll be linked on our Instagram. If you're not following us on Instagram, please do so. It's at from surface, the number 2 deep. So all of the information will be linked on the descriptions and in the Instagram.
So signing out, it's C Joy
and Shara J, and we will see you next time on From Surface to Deep.